where the objective here is to eliminate any caps or artificial limitations and to assure that basically if a person has orthotic or prosthetic needs, that they have the same limitations as general medical and surgical care. Do you think this is the type of thing that can have a role in healthcare reform as it sits before the Congress now?
I think it's critical that we have parity. Some states have done it. I think, as you said, 17 states have looked at it, and we need to make sure that the House bill that incorporates that same type of parity covers all 50 states that are under the program, and I am optimistic that that'll be in the final bill.
The Amputee Coalition of America has done a lot of hard work to differentiate between durable medical equipment, which is oxygen tanks and hospital beds, and custom devices like orthotics and prosthetics that amputees require to be productive. And so how can we ensure that in the current language now in the bill is very good about making that distinction? How do we ensure that the final bill has this and there's not it's not eliminated?
This is a continuum of care issue. This is the whole package. This is treatment and not just a piece of equipment. And therefore, you can't just categorize everything there the same when, in fact, this is part of the rehabilitation, the recovery, the long-term wellness of the patient. And so, therefore, it should be treated exactly like cancer treatment or other things under any system that you would have at the state level or the federal level.
What can we do and what can you do to raise awareness about that?
Well, there's more ways you can raise awareness today than probably any time, certainly any time in our history. You do it by going to meet with members of the House and Senate and their staffs, but also you do it through an education process. You do it through you can go on these radio talk shows to discuss the problems that you face and the challenges you face. You can go on television interview programs. You can go into the schools. You can send, I've told people, I remember 10 or 12 years ago reading in the Knoxville News Sentinel a letter to the editor from a University of Tennessee professor who said a man by his same name had sent a letter to the editor into the paper taking a position totally opposite from what he would have, and he laughed it off till the 10th person mentioned it to him. And surveys show that people read letters to the editor second only to the sports pages. So there's just all kinds of things that you can do. And people, you still, politicians know that word of mouth is still the best advertising out there. And one reason is because people have become so addicted to the screens, the computer screens and the TV screens and the Blackberries and so forth, they're not talking to people like they used to. So if you get out and you and all the people connected to the Amputee Coalition, if all these 2 million people or their families got out and started talking to live human beings, it'd be amazing what could happen. People like Jordan should be able to have more control over their the type of treatment they get and where they get it and who they get it from than some bureaucrat in Washington who maybe has never met him and never been to East Tennessee or Charleston. So that's another thing that we need to try to do as we work through this process.
Your organization, your association, has done a wonderful job helping to educate members of Congress. They may not be coming here with the information that we have, but certainly with your with your involvement in the legislative process, I think we've gone a long way and come a long way in helping to educate members of Congress and the differences and the importance.
On the House side, there is bipartisan legislation called the Medicare Orthotics and Prosthetics Improvement Act, which primarily takes aim on fraud and abuse, on trying to assure the qualifications of providers for orthotic and prosthetic care. In the current status of health care reform, where there's so many things going on, do you see any prospect where legislation such as this that will save money has any chance of being included in the final bill?
One of the easiest places to save money is to really invest enough money in having people out there making sure that that kind of fraud and abuse does not take place. Too often what we do here in government is we pass legislation, but we don't have the tools in place to make sure that the program that is there is not being taken advantage of. And so it's those kinds of things that you're mentioning right now that is bipartisan, that who can oppose trying to rout out fraud and abuse and making sure that people who see folks like Jordan Thomas are qualified in doing so.
I know that many people in my generation are concerned about the cost and how the government intends to pay for the whole process to reform healthcare. And there's been estimates of to $900 billion is going to be the cost. What do you say to kids my age that are concerned about inheriting that debt?
I've made very clear as a member of Congress, but more importantly, the President has made clear that he will not sign a bill that adds 1 penny to the federal debt over the long term, the deficit in the short term. We have run up an astronomical amount of debt, and we don't want to pass that on to future generations, and we have to pay for everything that we're doing. We're not going to do like we did with the Part D prescription drug program, which is pass a program that is meritorious but not pay for it at all. We're going to make sure that every component of this is paid for up front, or it's not going to become law. There is a cost associated with that. We have to find the savings in the current system to address those costs, but we're not going to pass 1 penny of federal debt on to you or any of your grandchildren for that matter.
Let's get back to our top story, the push for health care reform. Millions of you are weighing in. We want to introduce you to one American on a very, very special crusade. Although he's disabled, he's taking major steps to help millions of amputees. Let's go to CNN's Brooke Baldwin. She's working the story for us. Brooke, explain.
Wolf, I have gotten to know Jordan Thomas, and you know what? He would not describe himself as disabled at all, and he is one of 2 million men and women, young and old, who have come right here to Washington wanting change in our nation's health care, and their argument that arms and legs are not a luxury.
Hey, Jordan again. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
As the debate over health care reform rages on in Washington.
Jordan, now, college in Charleston just let you off?
I did. I had to come up to Washington, you know.
20-year-old Jordan Thomas is fighting for a cause close to home. Jordan is a bilateral amputee. He lost his legs in a boating accident when he was just 16.
My dad jumped in the water immediately and held me afloat, and I remember looking at him and saying, "Dad, my feet are gone."
During his recovery, Jordan met children whose parents, unlike his, couldn't afford expensive prosthetics.
My legs are $24,000, and a lot of companies will put caps, $5,000 cap, for example, and then you have to pay the rest.
So the then 16-year-old started the Jordan Thomas Foundation, raising money to help disadvantaged kids like Noah get the prosthetics they need. You like the knee?
Yeah. Yeah.
How's it work? Just like that?
Yeah, and you can do this. Watch.
Wow. Taking Noah's story to the next level.
So what are you doing? You're pounding down the doors of some of these congressmen?
Trying to get a hold of some of them, yeah. And just raising awareness. That's the thing about, you know, the whole amputee deal is it's not kind of a red state or blue state deal. It's just kind of an ethical deal. What would you do?
Jordan is taking his hard-hitting questions.
What do you do to ensure that the amputees have access to the best possible people for them to provide prosthetics?
Hoping lawmakers will listen and follow through.
There's an awareness level that is hugely raised when someone like him is here.
Joining Jordan, dozens of amputees taking their message to the U.S. Senate the same day that Senator Max Baucus released his roadmap to health care reform.
We want legislation that will eliminate the caps so that amputees across the United States have access to the types of devices that allow them to function every day.
There are 2 million amputees nationwide. Jordan is simply one of them, taking on Congress step by step.
It's a no-brainer.
Jordan has, in fact, become one of our own CNN heroes, and really, Wolf, amputees nationwide will wait to see if there will be language in the proposed health care bill to include full coverage or parity, if you want to get technical, for people with prosthetics. But in the meantime, they are just simply here trying to raise awareness. Wolf.
Sounds like a real hero to me. Thanks very much.